If you've watched a bunch of recovery stories like myself, you've probably finished them all slightly confused and thinking, okay, what exactly did they do to heal? And it's not that they're purposely leaving something out or that you're not understanding it the right way or getting it the right way or missing it. I've watched over 200 recovery stories, some of them more than once. That was part of my health OCD at the time. And I finally realized why there are so many comments that are always asking, okay, but they didn't tell me what they did. What did they do to heal? What did you actually do? So in today's video, I want to talk about why what did they actually do is the wrong question and what actually shifts a sensitized nervous system. And if you just heard me say sensitized nervous system and you don't know if that's what you have, take my quiz because it's going to help you figure out, do I have a sensitized nervous system or do I have a dysregulated nervous system? Click the link in the description to take that quiz. So why does that question never have a good answer? Because long before I was recovered from my chronic anxiety and my chronic insomnia, I would watch recovery stories way too much. And the thing is that what actually healed them, what actually helped with their recovery and to help them get better was way more about principles than it was about a very specific protocol or step-by-step process. And I think that as someone who has studied everybody and everything, yes, compulsively, but not anymore. During that time, I did get a lot of knowledge. I got a lot of stuff up here, but I was always looking for like, what was the through line? What is everybody saying? Maybe they're saying it in a different way. Maybe they're saying it and they're weaving it into this very special protocol that they have. What are you guys all saying? I spent a lot of time trying to figure that out. So these principles that everyone talks about, maybe in a different way, maybe they use different language, but they're all saying generally the same thing. Safety, that your brain is interpreting threat. We need to provide safety. We need to re-engage with life. And most importantly, we need to change how we respond. And I think that one of the biggest reasons why that never gives people what they want is because we are trained to expect steps. We are trained to expect my very special, mysterious process of how to do this the right way so that you can get better and so you can get better very quickly. And, I'm not about all that because it was never a step-by-step thing. It never is. More often than not, in all of these recovery stories, I would hear people mention 3 different coaches, 4 different books, 2 different programs. They're mentioning one thing after another, because ultimately they keep joining these things and trying these things that are getting them closer to the safety, re-engaging with life and changing their response. So the reason why when people are doing these recoveries stories, they can't explain it in a way that satisfies what you need because it wasn't in a doing XYZ in this way perfectly. Ultimately, it was a shift in how they were living. And that's very hard, especially just as a normal person who's sharing your story, to get across. It's easier to say what program you did and what practices you did and that kind of stuff because that's something that people can latch onto. It feels concrete. We don't like abstract. We don't like, oh, I changed the way that I was responding. It's like, yeah, but what? But how? Tell me more about that. Tell me exactly what you did. And I'm going to write it down. I'm going to take notes and I'm going to copy you because if I copy you, I'll be able to recreate your results. Thinking it's very, very specific and tangible that we can grab onto it. If you are watching this, my guess is you've tried protocols, you've tried processes, you've tried programs that are very specific that are like, I'm going to walk you step by step with what to do. But if those things worked, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't still be seeking for an answer because you've done the steps, you've done the routine, you've tried all of the techniques, and there are hundreds of them at this point. I get messages every day from people talking about how following these processes and these steps and these techniques and these methods of doing things made them worse and worse and worse and worse. That's why it's very important, if you did not see my last video about sensitization versus dysregulation, that will help you understand why certain tools are used for certain jobs and why certain things things will help a dysregulated nervous system and why those same things will absolutely overwhelm a sensitized nervous system. So I will link that video. There's a reason why you're still looking for answers, because if that stuff worked the way that it was marketed, you'd already be better. You wouldn't still be looking. It would have just been clean cut, do this, it's done. And that's not a dig at you. I think it's all about the model being wrong. And I think the model being wrong has to do with taking something like marketing and people who are in business and mixing that with healing and trying to turn healing into something that can be marketed as a very special process or framework or blueprint or, very special. I think that a lot of the time these programs get very bloated and filled with stuff. I joined one of them. I joined multiple of them, but I remember joining one of them. I was just telling Ryan this last night, my husband. I was like, I remember joining this specific program, getting into it. It had so much stuff. So many exercises, so many things I was supposed to be doing with interrupting thoughts and moving my body from side to side and stepping here and breathing, doing this. And I thought I was so overwhelmed. This was like at the depths of like my worst of my worst. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if I need to do this to heal, like I'm cooked. I'm done. Like I'm never going to get better because people are saying that they're healing through this. And it's so overwhelming to me. I can't do this. I'm screwed here. And so when you have these things you're looking at that are like 40 hours of content and 60 somatic exercises and endless access and do these things 14 times a day and hearing people say, I interrupted my thoughts 300 times a day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this sounds like a lot of work. It sounds like I'm going to have to be doing this all day. And the bigger problem is it felt separate from life. It didn't feel like do it as you live your life, which is I'm a big supporter of that and teacher of that. It felt like do it instead of your life. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to work? How am I going to be interrupting my thoughts all day? How am I going to raise my children? I can't do this all day. I need to find a way to bring it all together. So, I think when you see things that are really loaded with endless content, it creates this illusion of value. Like it has so much stuff. You're going to have everything you could ever need. I'm going to walk you through this step by step. And that's just not the way this works, because more stuff to do is not what a sensitized nervous system needs. When you're less sensitized and you're just kind of dysregulated and you have a lot of free time, maybe you work from home and you want to be spending all day meditating and changing all your thoughts and all that, you'll have plenty of time and space for that. You'll have capacity for that if you enjoy it and it's what you want to do. But this illusion of doing all these things and being able to grab onto certain tools and very specific methods gives you an illusion of certainty. And when you're sensitized, you want certainty so bad. You just want to feel like you know what's coming. You know what to expect. Someone promised you that you'll recover in 6 weeks or 6 months or 1 year. Like it's just whatever it is, it's certainty. And we grab onto that when we are in this desperate place. That is not the same thing as healing. It can be hard to blend these two worlds together because healing is not linear, right? And that's not the first time you've heard someone say that. It's kind of all over the place. And ultimately, I think sometimes people can learn certain principles through processes, through protocols, through systems, but I don't necessarily think it's the straightest shot, which is what I'm all about, just because I wasted 20 years going in circles and trying all of these programs and being like, oh my gosh, I only feel worse. I only feel more overwhelmed, more confused. I'm getting worse. It's almost like the more I do, the worse I get. And so I had to find a different way. So everything I talk about on this channel is coming from that place. Is like, how do we do less, but do it in a way where it's more impactful? How do I strip this down to only the information I need because I'm already stressed as hell. I'm already so overwhelmed. I can't be doing this for 3 hours a day. I need it to be able to completely cross over with the life that I'm living right now so that we kill two birds with one stone. I can't do all of this random stuff to heal until I feel better and then get back into my life. I need to be able to do both at the same time. Even if it's maybe more on the side of healing, I need to, from the get-go, be able to incorporate me and the fact that I'm a mom, I'm a woman, I'm a human, I'm a business owner. I need to be able to kind of do all of this at once. I need to let life be the regulator. And that happens when we change the response, when we create safety. And when people are healing, That's what they're actually doing. And I know people are always waiting for someone to like shout out a coach or shout out a product or a book or a podcast or something, because then it gives them something to say, okay, I will grab onto that. And again, I want you to know that's always a grasp for control. There is a difference between like the tools that are easy and then a way of living that's going to be really challenging and hard for you, because I know you're so tired. But it's very easy to journal. It's very easy to hum. It's very easy to stick your legs up a wall. It's easy to do things that keep you really busy in the name of like, oh, I'm just regulating my nervous system. And those things, they're not bad in and of themselves. Again, later down the road, if you love them, do them. And they do help. Like they do help in those moments to get regulated when you're not sensitized. You're going to hear me make that distinction a lot because it is so important. What I'm saying though is that those things aren't the hard part. And if you're doing all of those things and avoiding the hard part, that's just another way you're avoiding. And unfortunately, you're avoiding your healing because it's through the hard stuff that we heal. The hard part is living your life in the middle of a flare. That is hard. The hard part is re-engaging with the things you stopped doing when you went into protection mode and said, I'm not going to do that. I'm taking all of these things out of my life because I need to shrink it to stay safe. The hard part is responding differently when you are absolutely terrified out of your mind. That is hard. Healing is not going to happen through an exercise. It might help you cope. It might help you very temporarily calm down, but it's going to happen while getting back into that life that you've been avoiding. And so I think a lot of people do try to like throw in tools even while they're desensitizing. And oftentimes the energy that you're using those tools from is, I'm feeling something uncomfortable, so I'm going to use a tool to make it go away. And that's not expanding our capacity. That's similar to like these little fires being set off and you're just like, ooh, okay. But it's already over there. And now you're getting rid of that fire and putting out these fires. But instead of getting rid of the thing that keeps starting the fires, that's where we want to go. We want to get to the root. So there's no shame in using those things if you really feel like they help you. But please know that they're a support. And they're not even a necessary support. So there's no need to be using them if you don't really like them and if they don't legitimately help you. But the goal is to get to the root so that you don't need those supports anymore. When you are sensitized, you don't have a lot of capacity. That's very important to know, because most programs are going to have you spending what little capacity you have on fixing and monitoring and practicing the tools, so that you're just like in tool land all the time. That's not what it's for. That's not what we want to be using that capacity on. You have such a shrunken capacity that we want to use that to be living and rewiring and retraining while we live. Even if your capacity is very, very small, knowing where that baseline is and expanding from there, not managing yourself and not trying to be like, okay, how many times have I gone through the 6 steps? Have I done the step forward, step back, step to the side? Guys, you know, and here's how I want to wrap this up. Is it's really not complicated. The things I talk about are really not complicated. Most of the response that I get from people is, of course, great. And like it lands with so many people, but there's also a very large portion of people that immediately are like, they push back. This is confusing. This doesn't make sense. But how? Tell me exactly how I do this. Give me some very practical examples of what exactly I do. The truth is that you could read a few really good, really clear books. I have another video that tells you of my top 3 books that I would recommend if your system is sensitized. You could read books. You could listen to free content, including the content that I share on this channel, and you could fully recover completely on your own. The information is out there. I worked with a coach for around 4 months. We met weekly in the beginning, and then that stretched out further and further. Those coaching calls were primarily him telling me again and again, yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable. Yep, it's going to take a long time. I'm going to need you to just sit with that uncertainty. Yeah, I know it's going to get better before it gets worse. Expect it to feel a bit like a withdrawal. Like it was just reminders to follow the principles and to let it suck. Follow the principles and let it suck. That's what these coaching calls were. And that's what my content is. And that's what we need as, you know, sensitized individuals is like content or a coach or a program or whatever it is. The need underneath it is not to get into specifics and to get very clear and to get a lot of reassurance. It's to be reminded Leave it alone. Let it pass. Go anyway. I know you don't feel good. Go anyway. Do it anyway. Let it be there. Don't engage. Don't get involved. That's it. And we need those reminders. So those are the reminders that you need to give yourself. People do not stay stuck because they don't have the right access to stuff. The stuff is out there. I think the biggest issue is that the fear that you have distorts the way you apply what you're learning. We're learning things that are so clear. It's like, how much more clear could you get than don't research anymore? And people are like, but how? It doesn't get any more clear. Stop researching. But because we're so terrified, we're like, I don't know how to stop researching. And the truth is, you do know how to stop. It's going to be very, very uncomfortable. And you're looking for a way to do it without that discomfort. And that way does not exist. We can't keep turning these principles into all these protocols, because what it's leading us to do is to look to other people who have healed and say, what was the protocol you followed? Who did you talk to? And what I want to say is, when you're looking for that information, you still are holding this belief that that person or that course or that book is going to save you. I put myself into that category. I put myself, my content, anything I ever sell, my course, all of that is never going to save you. It's never going to do the work for you. It's never going to get you to recovery, ever. It's on you. It's on us to take what we learn and to understand these principles and to say, oh my gosh, this is going to be so hard, but it's also so hard to live this way. And I can't live like this anymore. I've got to make a change. I need to start doing the opposite of everything that I've been doing for the last year, 5 years, 10 years, 40 years. That's the hard part. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I promise you, there were probably 30 people that led me right to the water. They led me right there. I was looking at it. It was right in front of me. And I was like, I don't know if I want water. Maybe I could get a Coke Zero. And then I would bounce, and then I would get led right back to that water. And I'd be like, I'm not really thirsty. Like, it was crazy. And it's so important that we understand that the most important thing is people are recovering. They are recovering from all different kinds of things. Every symptom you can imagine, that's what you have to hold on to. Not how exactly did you do it. You just have to understand the mechanics and the principles under what heals the sensitized nervous system. Safety. Response instead of reaction. And the way that I like to teach those principles is through things like acceptance, through things like allowing, through things like reducing fear and responding with less fear. That's what everyone's saying. They're just saying it in different ways. And everyone's going to resonate with a different teacher, a different coach, different people in the space. But don't get tricked into thinking that there's a very specific 6-step process and that's the only thing you're missing. A lot of the time what we're missing is the really hard, grueling work of, I feel so scared and I'm going to respond differently anyway. I feel so uncomfortable. My whole body is burning and I'm going to do this meeting anyway. It's not letting your current state and what you're currently feeling dictate what you do next. And that shit is hard, you guys. It is so hard. I'm never, ever going to sugarcoat that for you. One of my things is being very direct and keeping it very real. I'm never not going to be that because it's just who I am, including telling you, expect it to suck, expect it to get worse before it gets better. But what you're missing from the recovery stories is that a couple things. I am going to wrap this up. A lot of the time people are so far out of it that they don't even really remember exactly what they did because the days blend into each other and we just take it day by day trying to show up a little better than we did yesterday. And over time, our nervous system gets this very strong signal that we are no longer in danger. The danger has passed. Come back to baseline. And the way that we do that is everything I talk about on this channel. So be careful for when your brain is still fixating on one very specific thing that's going to do this for you. Lots of people are out there putting out really good information. That's all that they can do. Whether or not you take that information and apply it in those hard moments is 100% up to you. So when you watch a recovery story and you are frustrated because they didn't tell you exactly what they did, I understand why you're frustrated. You're frustrated because you're looking for something very specific. I think a lot of the time the better question would be, what did they stop doing? What did they change? that they were doing before that was keeping this alarm going that they stopped doing that therefore turned the alarm off? What did they stop reinforcing? How did they stop making what they were experiencing feel dangerous? Because those are the things that desensitize the nervous system. Leave me a comment if this resonated with you, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye, guys.